Our next session is going to be a panel discussion focused on cybersecurity. And our speakers today are going to be Anand Kashyap, who is the co-founder and the CEO of Fortanix. He was previously at Microsoft, Symantec, and VMware. He is a product of IIT Kharagpur. We have Satish Veerapuneni, who is the CEO and co-founder of Lumeus.AI. He was previously at Fortinet, Centrify, and Intel. He is product from IITBAA and Stanford. And we have Anand Thangaraju, who is the field CISO of EPlus. He is an AI fellow at Perplexity, and he is a member of the NASDAQ Center for Board Excellence. The panel discussion will be moderated by Nidhi Kannoujia, who is a cloud PM at Illumio. So welcome on stage. Please join me in giving them a huge round of applause.
Okay, yeah. Good.
All right. Thank you so much, Swapnil, for amazing introduction. So as we get started with the panel, so we have the panel of founders, entrepreneurs, and a field CISO. So there's a lot of variety of perspective. What we want to go through is how do you use security as the accelerator and advantage, right? We know that as we build security products, we are in the way of the problem that customer wants to solve, right? So how do we change that narrative? So that's what we'll go through. Before we actually dive deep into the security topic and how do we make that as a differentiator itself, let's start with the theme of conference, right? This is a great pivot. So converting that knowledge into innovation. So let's start with you, Satish. What do you think from security perspective? How do you see a great pivot?
No, I mean, this is great. Actually, thanks a lot, Nidhi. Thanks a lot, IITBAA, IIT Leadership Conference for organizing this, right? So quick intro. So just on the great pivot topic, we started, myself and my co-founder, sort of IITBAA. We graduated 2002. We started Lumeus.AI about 4 years ago. And I think one of the things that we constantly kept at the back of our mind is think about how the market is evolving, right? And solve a problem that is a must-have for the current market, right? So when ChatGPT came out, like 2022, and early 2023 was a pivotal moment for us to reimagine what we do differently, right? Now, there's going to be two sets of people that you would meet. One set of people who mock pivot, the other set of people who actually respect pivot. I think what I've realized over the last couple of years is there are more people respecting pivots than before, right? And I think AI, one of the big things that has happened because of AI is, in fact, even Amit was talking about changing the culture to pivot, right?
That's right.
And I think it's becoming more mainstream. Yeah. So to me, I think pivot is a mainstream phenomena, and you have to internalize that. And it's okay to say, hey, we are early stage, we're figuring it out, right? It's totally okay. And I think that's what, yeah.
That's great. So Anand, going to you from Fortanix, you built Fortanix ground up, right? So you've seen how the industry is going. So would you like to add something, how you have seen great pivot in the industry right now?
Sure, thanks Nidhi, thanks for the question, and thanks everyone for having me. I'll just make one correction. In my intro, they said IIT Kharagpur. No disrespect to IIT Kharagpur, but I am from IIT Kanpur.
Well, stand corrected, thank you.
Talking about the pivot, I think the biggest transformation in the world of technology has been AI in the last couple of years, last 3 years since ChatGPT came out. And while consumers have embraced AI and they're using it in their day-to-day life, the enterprise revolution, the enterprise pivot is playing out as we speak. At Fortanix, as a security company now focusing on AI security, we are looking to address that gap as we see in building a secure enterprise AI stack and an AI infrastructure. So that is what our focus is.
That's great. What is your thought from customer perspective?
Thank you, Nidhi. First of all, thanks for offering up this opportunity. And I'm not an IITian by any stretch, but I have a lot of IIT friends because I did end up in IIM Ahmedabad, and that's when I met most of the IITians and all the things they have been up to. Huge respect for the alumni too. In terms of my background, I come from a practitioner side. I've been in big banks helping secure their infrastructure. I was at Silicon Valley Bank until all hell broke loose, and then moved on to a few other gigs, and eventually ended up in a product side and field CISO role. So I work with a lot of the early stage companies and try to understand their market fit and be a sales and GTM motion for them. So the way I see the pivot overall is, of course, you need to have a broad mindset of embracing new technologies that come your way. Any company that started like probably 5 to 10 years ago, they wouldn't have seen all the shifts happening in agentic AI in general. So you should be open to embracing new tech, but you also need to stay true to your core competency and where you can build the moat. You don't want to you don't want to just keep chasing the new shiny object. The way I see some founders do that mistake. Yeah, if you have a strong moat built from your founder team, that founder market fit is what is going to get you to the next level, right? So don't pivot beyond that.
It's a great point. We'll talk about the shiny object in detail in next few questions. So we know that the security market from the tools and products perspective, it's saturated, right? There's a lot of products out there, right? But breaches are also on the rise. It seems like we're all powering through, right? So I want to get perspective from you, Satish. How do you find in this saturated market, how do you find the right problem to solve, right? Yeah. How do you focus on something which is so important that makes sense to build a product for it?
Well, this is a great question, right? So I think one area where kind of there are more and more new threats happening is going back to what I think in the previous session, Amit was talking about agents, right? So there's the customers that we talk to, in fact, over the last, I would say, maybe year or so, there is a lot of agent deployments that are happening. And one of the persona which is deploying a lot of agents is developers, right? Whether it is leveraging Cursor or whether it is leveraging Claude, CLI, and so forth. And there are new threats that are affecting the agents and indirectly affecting the enterprise, right? So the new threat is what we call prompt injection attacks. There is a bunch of them, but prompt injection attack is think of it as in the old world, we used to have phishing attacks, right? Prompt injection attack is like maybe 10x or even 100x bigger than phishing, because the ability for manipulating the agent is at a different scale. Through natural language, you can manipulate the agent, right? Phishing attacks were stopped with signatures and so forth. Prompt injection attacks are much more complex to stop, right? So I think one area where in security, Nidhi, I mean, obviously you live this as well, but is these new types of attacks that are happening, and these attacks could have much bigger impact than what the previous attacks could have. So that's an area where you should be thinking about, yeah.
So I see. So your point is that you're actually looking into where are the threats evolving, and also the persona, like you said, developer persona is where you're focusing, and looking into that persona and key evolving attack areas, how you get to the right problem to solve. Yeah. And you have built the company which is all the data pipeline and confidential computing and everything. What do you think is, how do you come about the right problem to solve in this saturated market?
Yeah, as a company, we have always gone back to the first principles. We look at two things and try to match them. One is, what are the customer's biggest pain point? And we cater to large enterprise. And large enterprises are worried about data, most of all. And what our thesis has always been is all the things, all the security tools and services they're buying is towards the service of securing that data, to protect data breach, to protect data from leaving the organization. And even as the tech stack changes from traditional applications to now AI or agentic applications, the thing that large enterprises are worried about is data. So we've always tried to see how we can attack that problem. That becomes the biggest security threat. How do you secure the data? And then you try to match it with what your core competencies are, what your capabilities are as a company, as a startup or as a company. And for us, we have deep security background. We are one of the pioneers in this security technology of confidential computing. So we realized that, yeah, what if you can build the security from the ground up, all the way from the chip to the application? And what if you could build applications that have security enabled in them? So you build the most secure products possible and not have to bolt on security rather than build in security inside the products. And if you couldn't do that, and do that to serve the interest of the customer and relieve their pain points of securing their data, then you can be successful.
Makes sense. So there's a lot of point of view from the founders and entrepreneur side that is looking into developers, right personas, what are the industry trends, looking into data is one of the metric. What do you see from a customer perspective? Are we solving right problems? Are we, what is creating the gap?
I'm going to open a new can of worms. So I think from a founder standpoint, I think they both hit it straight. It's all about what their capabilities are and trying to scale from that. So founder market fit is absolutely crucial. Everything else comes later. Of course, you still have to have a vision. Are you building a product that's going to scale for the enterprise? If you are planning for that, go for that from day one, right? Have that clarity. Don't start small and then hoping that eventually I'll pivot into an enterprise company. That doesn't work that way. So you got to have a broader vision, have a more foundational architecture play rather than just putting another Band-Aid. But sadly, the Band-Aids work too. Like I go to RSA, I see 5,000, 6,000 companies, and many of them are just trying to solve like a small part of the entire ecosystem problem, and they still get bought by other companies because they need that one small part, right? So from a builder standpoint, there's no right and wrong answer. You really need to commit to either the long journey of going all the way through IPO, or if you think this is your first hustle, I'm going to try something small, then there's so many Band-Aids you can actually go after. And there's all kinds of frameworks, like the entire research around MITRE ATT&CK implies that we have a taxonomy of different kind of attacks. There's a few companies that have just picked one area. Okay, I'm just going to pick up ransomware as the problem, and you can go and find like 10 solutions just trying to put like a perimeter defense around it, right? That works. People buy reactively when there is a ransomware hit. You go and shop around and you make budget for that. But it's hard to justify a budget for a much broader security play. So I think, yeah, it's definitely from a customer standpoint, it's that are we thinking long term and trying to secure our defenses by design, or am I just shopping around for something that is easily available? Every company is in a different stage. I work with a lot of startups. For them, security, yes, they want to pay attention, but they still want to build something and ship it out. For them, it's still like a wish list item. That's the sad reality.
I think you bring up a great point. It's perspective, how you look at it. Are we looking at it as a Band-Aid, or are we looking at it as a niche, right? If you're able to nail down the problem that you really want to solve and you do it well, I think that's how the ecosystem we're building. So it's a great point. It's what is customer looking for? Are they really ground up reinventing their security strategy, or are they ready to build on?
Another great analogy I've heard that is go try to build painkillers, not vitamins. There's so many vitamins out there, but what you really want to go after is the painkiller.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Let's move to how do we build security as a product differentiator, right? So starting with you, Satish, right? So security is, as I was mentioning earlier, that it's somewhat in the way, right? How do we shift that mindset and move to it is an enabler for you, for example, a startup that is building security product itself, or the use cases it is solving for customer. How do you see that evolving? Are we leading in that direction of making security as a competitive edge and differentiator?
Yeah. So I think if we use real examples itself, right, to internalize this better. So today, you know that this vibe coding, right, everyone is landing up being an engineer, in some form or the other, right? Or a developer in some form or the other, right? So you're using multiple of these coding tools, whether they are IDE based or whether they are browser based. It doesn't matter, right? Or in between. Now, in scenarios like that, as you are kind of leveraging that, think of me, myself, being a developer. How do you put security by design as part of that? So all the products, let's say if you're focused, we are focused on the developer persona. So when you're baking in security, let's say in the form of a plugin or whatever that might be, you need to be an enabler for the developer. So else what will happen is it becomes a bolt-on and the developers push back and the security, the objective of the security is not met. So I feel like as you're thinking about products, right? So I think you got to figure out how do you make it a win for the user. So in our case, the user is a developer, right? Or user is a vibe coder, which could be non-traditional definition of a developer, right? So it's important that you make it very native for them, and at the same time, they're giving the security team the assurance that the security team needs, right? So I think that's how I think about baking security into a product. It has to be good for the end user while giving the CISO or the CISO team the controls and the governance that they need.
Your thought, Anand, on this? How are we making our customers use security as a competitive advantage?
Yeah, security as a product differentiators. I'll give an analogy first, and then I'll bring it home to what we are doing. So as an analogy, anyone who was using or buying Windows PCs in the early 2000s, if you remember, the first thing you did was install an antivirus after you bought the machine, because you knew as soon as you turn it on, it will be attacked, and then you want to prevent that. These days, when you buy a laptop, you don't do that really. And then computing has moved to smartphones, and with iPhone and Android, you don't worry so much about it. And why has that happened? Because they're built in so much security, so much privacy in those devices, whether it's hardware-based security or it's the App Store, which is a walled garden where you get applications from. It has become much more secure, the platform. And that has completely changed how we see these personal computing devices. When it goes to enterprise, so we answer a lot of RFPs from our customers, from our prospects. And whenever we receive an RFP, there are two sets of questions. There are functional requirements, and then there are non-functional requirements. And in any product category, as the product category starts to mature, there will be many vendors who will start answering most of the functional requirements, and they do it pretty well. The differentiator starts to become the non-functional requirement in that case. And in the non-functional requirement, you'll have maybe performance, where are you deploying it, is it SaaS versus on-prem? And then security is a big component of that as well. So we often answer huge security questionnaires. Even though if we sell a security product, security is still a big differentiator for us in that security product compared to other security products. By being able to answer those security questionnaires really well and show that our product is superior to other products in those non-functional requirements when it comes to security.
That's great. Actually, for you, Anand, I'd like to load this question a little bit more.
Sure.
Right, so when we talk about differentiator, one is the new products that are coming up, other is incumbent, right? So how do you see different types of organizations in the industry leveraging this as a differentiator? For example, are they leveraging the technology in the same way? Are they able to do it, being such big organizations?
I think, one thing that's really leveled the playing field is the bad actors don't discriminate between a big FANG company or a small mom and pop. They're all equally vulnerable, because wherever there's a best ROI justified, the bad actors are going to go and poke it, right? So that's why you see trust and customer security and safety has become a priority for even the Microsofts of the world. Like, they didn't have to double down on that. You might have seen the news about Microsoft starting their own pledge around secure by design, and all that came up. They could have done this all along, but of course, the more you get under the scrutiny of some big hack happening, and then you're on the policy level dialogue, then you wake up to that. You don't have to do that at that extent. Like from day one, if you have a good strategy around maintaining customer trust, that's going to be the biggest secret weapon for your growth all along, right? So I think it's just a matter of having good security best practices from day zero. Have a team that, again, like Satish said, it should be, in a sense, enabling your development teams from day one. It should not be an afterthought. I know some founders, they think, okay, they can just buy the SOC 2 assessment and be done with it, right? That's the only security. I don't want a CISO stay away from me. I only care about selling the product. That never works in the long run. So always helpful to have a program around customer trust and safety. That's the secret weapon behind safe base, acquisition of data. There's so many companies are like adopting that trust center and trying to be more open about their security practices to the world.
I agree. So let me see. Okay, going to into the technical advancement area. So let's talk about the shiny object that we were mentioning earlier. So how much, and I'm talking about AI and agents and everything, right? So Satish, with the AI technology at hand, agents all over, everywhere in the enterprise, how do you think the new and upcoming organizations are able to leverage that technology from security perspective? And I'd also like to hear the security of the AI itself, if you'd like to add your thoughts on that.
Sure, yeah. So I think first, kind of leveraging the technology that is coming out is more a cultural thing, right? So meaning you have to kind of help folks understand that you got to be a curious and constant learner all the time, right? So sometimes we struggle with it as well, but then you have to swap out people and help them realize that that's the only way to survive, right? So if you're not curious, then you're not using the right technology. And I think I do agree with the fact that there is no constant, right? So LLM is not constant, SLM is not constant. And the technology that you're applying today is not constant. So you have to create the right stubs so that you can figure out how you swap out things in your architecture, right? So I think to answer your first part of the question, it's all around creating a culture of curiosity and ensuring that people experiment every single day and they are sharing what they have learned, and you're bringing the best ideas or the best technologies in your product, right? So that's the only winner in today's world. If you do not have the people who are curious, then maybe you're faking it, right? And if you fake it, imagine people will realize it over time, right? So that's not a good long-term strategy. So I think curiosity is one. Now, in terms of the second, which is AI security, I do believe honestly that there are new types of threats that are arriving and they're happening now, right? So prompt injection is one of them, obviously DLP, data leakage. They're traditional threats that still remain. And then there are new threats that are happening, right? So AI security, like to your point, Nidhi, is definitely going to become more and more, I think, a board level concern. And I think it's up to all the security-centric companies, like the big ones, as you know, all the public companies and small ones, to educate the market that you have to act now and don't wait for the future, right? So those are my two, yeah, I would say.
Makes sense. Anand, what is your thought on adoption of AI and versus security?
Yeah, and people talk about AI for security and security for AI, and they're both equally important, I believe. But they also have some cyclic dependency with each other. So AI is increasingly being used in security tools, to automate, to process massive amounts of data, to provide an NLP interface to security tools, and that is all well and good. But if your AI itself is not secure, then you're in trouble. And when people say AI is not secure, what does it mean? So yeah, there are all these different forms of prompt injection attacks and things like that. But the way we look at it is, one aspect of it is data. AI is processing a lot of data. So data goes in, data gets processed, comes out, data gets generated. How do you secure that data? How do you make sure that the data itself does not have PII information and things like that? The other part of it is the model itself. How do you make sure that the model weights are secure, they've not been tampered with, that they cannot be stolen, things like that. And then there are these closed source models, the open source models. Closed source models are not being used widely because of security concerns. And open source models, yeah, they will catch up with the closed source models, but they have that data security challenge as well. And the way the security industry is addressing this is they're running the same playbook from before, right? So they all have their observability tools. So if you look at what Cisco is doing, what Palo Alto is doing, they're all doing the exact same thing that they've done in the past for the cloud or for the enterprise. They have their firewalls, they have their observability tools. And yeah, all of that is still the same, but you're not going to the heart of the problem. And I think since the tech stack is changing with AI, this is an opportunity for the industry to build the security in the stack itself, rather than, again, building firewalls and various DLP things outside of the AI stack. So at Fortanix, we are focusing on that. We are looking at how to build a very, very secure AI infrastructure where we use technologies like confidential computing and other guardrails and things like that, and build a full AI stack from the ground up, which is secure as soon as it is deployed. All the tools that are required, the observability, as well as the data processing, they can all be secure. It can be encrypted end to end. And if you can do that, then you have a much more secure AI deployment in your enterprise. And that will unlock a lot of value. And then you can use this AI for security tools as well as various other things.
Makes sense. What is your thought from customer perspective, or is industry ready to adopt the solution?
I mean, we have these conversations in most of our customer base as well, because everybody is curious right now. They want to see if they can at least do some projects in the sandbox. They don't want to be left behind. At the same time, they don't want to be the guinea pig putting out something too early. So there's so much of emotional decision-making happening, and the board's trying to put pressure. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm reading from the newspaper that there's already 30% productivity gains, so I'm baking that into my financials. So you somehow go make it work. That is how people are reacting to AI. I don't think we have it yet within the engineering pipeline. But I want to give an analogy so that people can relate more. So if you are like a candle manufacturer in the 1800s, and suddenly, or maybe I'm quoting it wrong, like suddenly electricity is found, the normal, the takeaway from that is, oh, there's new technology, I'm just going to find better ways to automate my production line, I'm going to make more candles. But the real smart people can see the future and would ideally pivot to making light bulbs versus churning out more candles. That's the moment we are in with AI, and I see people like still trying to take that and try to find optimization within their existing pipeline. The folks who are able to envision the true architectural shifts because of AI will start building towards that. And of course, it also is contingent on how big you are, and the bigger companies have a much bigger moat there. That's why you can see the Anthropics and all the FANG companies trying to invest so much in their AI investments, because it takes a while to unlock the true momentum. But while that's happening, I mean, that's definitely going to be an angle of monopoly, the same way the foundational models are approaching. But it doesn't mean that the small players don't have a place there. I still see there's so much optimism of while there is foundational models, you can still make meaningful value at the edge computing level, like trying to bring as much of business context towards your localized processes. So I'm still, in general, hopeful for some big wins, like the foundation models, as well as anybody who is trying to have a place in the new AI shift.
That's great. So if you compare that to electricity, let's not get a shock, let's say, when we're building the products. Okay, so going to selling security products, because it's very different. At least I build products, so I know when you're thinking of even POC, having conversation with customers, and how do you bring value very quickly, right? So quickly, how do you think selling a security product is different than anything else, and how do you prove value in the cycle quickly?
I think for security, selling, it all starts with the trust, right, first. I think especially for a startup, if you have to get a seat at the table, right, you're competing with some of the best vendors out there. So it always starts with trust, right? So they are trusting you, your team, to actually have their back, right? So that, I think it starts with that. That I think is very underappreciated, but so it's important that you internalize it as a startup, right? So then comes the product. Trust first, product second, right? So I think the more you internalize it as a technology kind of founder, you feel like maybe it is the product that is getting them attracted, but it's actually the person and the team that is first. So after that, you talk about the product and you have to help them understand kind of why you, right? Like, what is your differentiator? I think most of us, we fall in the trap of talking about the problems that they are already aware of, right? Like, for example, whether it is DLP, data loss prevention, or whether it is access, long-standing keys, or whether it is prompt injection, all of these are kind of things that security teams kind of understand. So if you're spending too much time educating them on those problems, sometimes it's about adapting and internalizing that they already are aware of the problem, so get into the meat. Help them understand why you, right? So two things. One is trust. It starts with trust first, you and the team. Second is then you get the seat at the table. Then the second is why you. Don't spend too much time on the problem, because sometimes the CISOs that you're talking to here in the valley, they're all aware of the problems. You just need to get to the meat. That's my advice. Yeah.
Your thoughts on that, Anand?
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. So I agree with Satish on the trust part. So selling security is not very different from selling any other product. And I've only sold to enterprise, so I don't know how selling works to consumers or SMBs. But selling security to enterprise is like selling any other enterprise product. People buy from people. So when you meet people like Anand here, you try to sell to them because they can buy. But so that's one part. I think one difference when you're trying to sell security is a lot of times you have to sell beyond the sale as well, because the security team might be buying your product, but they have to then go sell internally to other teams, other BUs inside the organization as well. And you have to help them go do that sale. Otherwise, your product will be sold, the security team will buy it, and it will sit there, it will not get used. So understanding that dynamic is also very important.
Anand, quickly, you'd like to add your thought?
Oh, I beg to differ with my good friend Anand on selling security is one of the hardest things I've come across ever. I'll explain why, right? I mean, you're probably familiar with the efficient markets theory, where any product that you see out there will fall into one of those quadrants where both the buyer and seller knows enough information to make the evaluation. Like, there's no real like things that unknowns there. But there's also an area where, like a used car, it's typically called as the lemons, right? Like where the used car owner knows more about the used car than the buyer. So there's definitely a skew in the market transaction there, and you just place the trust on somebody else. That's where the marketplaces helps more, because they tend to have a little bit of verified by badge. The other end of the lemons is your limes, where, like, if you say you're selling insurance, the buyer of insurance knows way more information than you as an insurance seller. So you somehow have to overcompensate for that lack of information. And security is one of the very few industries that falls in the crossover of lemon and lime. The buyer has no idea what they're buying, the seller has no idea what they're selling, but somehow the magic happens. It's like that's again the trust aspect, because there's no real like math behind evaluation. All the POCs that I've seen is so superficial, and it's all baked into like trust, and I hope that if I have a problem, I can give them a call, right? That is why it's a very unique industry in that sense. I know we are out of time, but in terms of key takeaways, the way I would say is, it's not just one magic bullet for selling security. It's all the obsession over details. Try to play it out from the buyer's standpoint. Of course, they may have a pain, but even considering that they have a budget, they have the pain, how easy is it to adopt, and making it so sticky. it should be easy to install and show immediate value, but at the same time, it should not be that easy to rip apart and move to another product. There's so many things that you have to think through to make your product sticky and survive. So that's what I would believe.
From a key takeaways perspective, any line or so you'd like to add, Anand and Satish?
From the security perspective, as I said, security can be a big product differentiator. And if you can build products that have security built in from the very beginning, I think that will help when you go out and sell your product. So that's something I will want to emphasize.
To me, it's just be curious enough to keep trying, right? So I think try new tools, try new technology, become a vibe coder. I think it'll serve you well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great conversation. We do not have time for questions, is it? Or they can meet outside? Sure?
Yeah, maybe one question.
Sure. Please.
Okay. All right, 2 questions, Nidhi.
Okay.
2 questions.
Yeah, my name is Sanjay Saxena, and we are cybersecurity authors. And we pivoted from classic IT security to AI security. Yesterday, I was meeting a client, because me and Niharika stand up. We were meeting a client. We are helping them implement AI. And they have a question. Here is the plot for my question, that vibe coding. After that, it has come. I became a coder myself, full stack, in 3 months, after 15 years. So now there is going to be vibe attacks, right? So there was a big talk about Scam GPT. Have you heard any word? Scam GPT is a new tool in the market that you can use you don't have to learn any coding or anything. You can just attack people, fish. You can start fishing on that. So how we are going to be ready for that?
You'd like to take
There'll be a lot of people because of that now.
No,
because it's a vibe attack.
Yeah, so that's where I think if we have to simplify, all those complex attacks are all falling in the same bucket of prompt engineering, right? Prompt injection attacks, right? So you need to architecturally have a solution that could do both posture as well as inline security. What happens in the market, like Anand was also mentioning right before, so you have a lot of companies that start small and they solve only a part of the problem, okay? Part of the problem is posture, right? And a good way to internalize what is the right architecture is when you look at the cloud. What has evolved for cloud, the same thing would also have to happen for vibe coding agents, for example, right? And prompt injection is a good way to internalize what is the right architecture to solve that problem, right? So I think the threats are real. Obviously, I do agree with you, right? And having the right architectural solution that looks at both out of band as well as inline becomes more and more critical because the time to exfiltrate is much shorter now. Imagine it's not humans anymore, right? It's agents doing something. And your agent could be running on your laptop. Multiple of them could be running on your laptop, vibe coding agents, or they could be running in the cloud, right? Codex, for example, runs in the cloud in a sandbox environment. So how do you think about it? How do you ask to, I think, Kashyap's question, answer as well. How do you think about it from first principles? If you're curious enough, you would eventually get to the right answers.
Thank you.
Yeah, one question here. Yeah, thanks for your thoughts. So again, coming back to specifics, because a lot of people are trying to get their organizations agentic. So one question is around, like for humans, we had OTC, OTZ kind of solutions for the longest time. So does that just migrate to agents? Because you've heard of examples like Vercel agent deleting the company's primary database, right? So how do you guys have thoughts on how that aspect is proceeding? Similarly, there's also this notion of shadow AI, where in the name of improving individual productivity, everybody's downloading stuff and putting it into ChatGPT or whatever. And so how do you get control on how much exposure you have via this experiment on improving personal productivity?
Can I take the shadow AI part first?
Sure.
So I think we tend to glorify this problem as something new and like a priority, but it's classic DLP use case, right? So any kind of attack surface where you see an inside-out egress of your crown jewel information, the best way to counter that is going to be some kind of an inline solution, right? So we've had so many different ways like CASBs and traditional DLPs. I mean, if you have a crown jewel that you have to protect, there's no other way. You have to invest in actual inspection of traffic that goes out to any kind of environment, be it cloud or whatever your AI agents people are using. And I don't want to get into the solutioning mode. There's 100 ways we can solve for that. But that's the easier problem to solve in the whole realm of AI compared to, like, you have a crown jewel, which is in fact your AI model, and outside-in threats trying to steal the model, influence the model. The future is headed towards that. Like, most of your money is going to be made off the investments you make on your models, and you have to find ways to protect that. That's where majority of the money is going to go. And what you are describing today is already a solved problem, in my view.
On the first part of the question is about identity. I think identity management and identity security is becoming more and more interesting and important for enterprises. The number of agents will probably be 10x or 20x or even more compared to the number of people. So the number of non-human identity compared to human identity will be way bigger. And being able to manage those identities, manage the credentials for them, and recycle them, the lifecycle management of that is becoming very, very important. A lot of companies are trying to address that. There have been some big M&A activity in that as well recently.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.